Today we're going to get some practice on how the sewing machine pulls things through. Okay, now a few things. Before we get going, I'm just going to turn on my machine. I just sat down at it, so it should be turned off. And then I'm going to set up so that my foot can hit the foot pedal without touching the outlet here. But you want to be comfortable pace. Now, when you are using the foot pedal, you want to be very careful. I like to think of it as the SpongeBob episode where his giant toe busts out of his shoe and he starts pushing it down with just his toe. That's how you should think about using the sewing machine. You want to use a light pressure so that you don't just floor it, because that can really mess up a project, okay? So, coming back up to our sewing machine. Today we're going to be using paper. And the reason we start off with paper is because I want you to see how the machine pulls your fabric through. Now, something very important is going to be the presser foot. Okay, notice how the paper is being held down by the presser foot. That is a good sign. If you have it up like this, it can move around, which can cause some really big thread issues if you aren't careful. So once you get your paper, the first thing that I want you to practice is practice putting your paper down on one of these lines. This is going to teach you how to sew in a straight line. And so because there's no fabric in there or thread, we don't have to do anything too specific, but I want you to practice keeping the paper on this line. Now, I'm going to press down, and the machine is moving my paper. Now, I want you to pay attention to which way it's moving. Notice that I'm not touching it. Here's my hand. I am not touching the paper at all. It's being pulled through all by itself by the feed dogs, okay? So as long as the presser foot is down and the feed dogs are underneath, your paper should move through on its own. I'm not touching it at all. Instead, all I have to do is guide it where I want it to go. Okay, so right now I'm just kind of guiding it where I would like it to go so that it follows that straight line the whole way. Okay, I'm getting close to the end, so a couple things you want to do. Notice right now that my needle is very close to the fabric. You always want to take and move your hand wheel toward you so that your needle comes up. Otherwise, you could end up breaking your needle and you're going to end up with a really big mess. Okay, now if you look carefully, you can see my row of dots that show where my machine sewed it. Okay, so a couple of things. I have a picture of this flower here, and I'm just going to show you how I would sew this. So now, what you want to do is line up your presser foot where you want your line to be stitched. Okay, now remember, I'm not pushing the paper through. If you push the paper through, you're going to break a needle. So instead, you just want to guide your paper where you want your machine to take it. Notice, I'm not pushing it at all. All I'm doing is guiding it. So right now, I'm just guiding it in a circle, because that's the edge of the flower. Whoop, got a little fast there, so just slow it back down if that happens to you. Okay, I'm still guiding it. Now, I'm coming up to a point here. So I want to show you how to do the pivot. Once you get to a spot where you need to turn directions, what you do is you take your hand wheel and you put your needle in your paper or fabric so that it's stuck in there. Now look at this. I'm going to lift up my presser foot. And now my paper can't go anywhere because the needle is in there. Okay, so all I have to do is change my paper's direction, put my presser foot back down, and start sewing again. Once again, just guiding the paper, not exactly telling it to shove through the machine. Okay, so now, once again, I'm getting close to the end. I want to lift the needle out. And I want to quickly show you, if you look at the back of the paper here, you can see that I have a very definite point here, and this point is where I pivoted. So that's going to be very important for you to do. So today you're going to get some practice on some different shapes with the sewing. Now, what I want you to do is be very careful and practice those pivot points and also those straight lines. Remember, I'm not shoving the paper through. It's being guided all on its own. Once I get close to a corner, I want to make sure that the needle's in the fabric or the paper. Lift the presser foot, and now it can move around again. Drop that presser foot again, and then here we go. And that's how you are going to paper sew today.